up, dragons? I'm back. Sorry, my dog is gonna bark because she hears me talking and I won't let her come in. So hey, I'm gonna do the second half of my August wrap up. August was a crazy month. This was the most time I was home after I got back from Italy. So in the month of August, I read 21 things. The first half of my August wrap up is earlier on my channel, I think mid-month. But I am really, really proud of myself. The Amazing Readathon definitely pushed me. You will notice a theme with most of these books. They're all blue, except for like one or two. I had one DNF, which I'm going to talk about briefly. I'm just going to give you guys my stats, and then I'm going to go through the rest of the books that I read in the month. And yeah, let's get into it. So I read 21 things. I read 7,815 pages, which is actually pretty good. And on average, I read 252 pages a day, which is great. My average page count was 372, which is pretty high for like what I normally read. My most read genre is mystery. I read 9 books with rep, 9 authors that I read before. I had 5 5-star reads, 3 4.5-star reads, 7 4-star reads, 4 3.5-star reads, 2 3 stars, and my average rating was a 4.2. I mean a 4.12, which is actually pretty good. I read 9 new releases, 7 backlist, and 5 last year. I read 12 physical, 6 audiobooks, 1 mixed media, and 2 ebook. I started 7 series, continued 3, completed 1, caught up with 2, and read 9 standalone. I read 2 arcs, 3 from Audible, 0 from KU, 1 from the library, 13 owned, which is actually really, really great. I read 1 romance, 2 historical romance, 4 mystery, 3 fantasy romance, 1 sci-fi, 4 contemporary, 1 thriller and horror, 2 graphic novel, 1 regular fantasy, 2 middle grade fantasy, and yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, that's all my stats, which I'm a stats girl. I think that stuff is so interesting. So yeah, now let's get into the books that I read. So yeah. Book that I read when I got home, I think this was for a romance prompt. It also was for Aurelium. I had to read a book that a bookseller chose for me. So I read The Deja Vu Gush by Holly James, and this is about 2 characters that kind of got caught in a time loop, and they have to kind of start uncovering what happened. So you have Gemma and Jack, and it was fun. I don't think it like rocked my socks. It was like a one point of view story, which is not always my favorite, but I love the time loop element. It gave me, the book by Rachel and Solomon gave me vibes, but one was aware of the time loop and the other one wasn't. I just enjoyed it. It wasn't amazing. I gave it 3 stars, but it was fun, and it was a fun concept, so I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read is an audiobook, and I actually started this before I went to Italy, but then I finished it when I came back, and it was for one of my prompts for Aurelium. I had to read a book that had like, the name Lily in the title, or the author, or had lilies on the cover, so I picked Shadow Sister by Lily Mead. I will attach a photo here. This was a book that I had heard a lot about, and I got the audio from the Libro FM ALC program, and I enjoyed it. It was like a solid mystery with a very open ending, I will say that. So you basically follow this main character. Sorry, I'm really, really bad at names, especially with audiobooks. And her sister goes missing, and her sister comes back, and she's very suspicious that this is not her sister because they've had a very, very combative relationship. And you kind of follow her kind of figuring out what happened to her sister. The ending is very open, and I liked it. I thought it really focused on the dynamics between the 2 sisters, because you do get both their point of views. It was a very quick listen, and it talked about a lot of like very important issues about how like marginalized and Black and marginalized community, their disappearances are not taken seriously. And I think that is something I used to be a very avid true crime watcher. I still am, but I really try to limit who I watch, just because I try to only focus on people that kind of give back to the community, and there's not a lot of creators like that I found. If you are looking for someone, Kendall Ray does a really, really good job. But I thought that it was a very interesting premise. The characters aren't the most likable, which is something that I sometimes struggle with in reading, but I did enjoy it. The ending is really open and has a twist you don't really see coming, so I would definitely read more by this author in the future, and I gave it 4 stars for review. And then the next book, sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes and not okay. And then the next book that I read is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. This I had to read for the romance prompt, and I gave this book 4 stars. Book in the Bright Fall series, I think, and this follows Astrid, and she is think she's the sister of the book from Delilah Green, and she kind of gets caught up. She's kind of like an interior decorator, and she kind of gets set on this project to do work on like a reality show, and she and the carpenter have like a dynamic. It's a very, very quick read. I really liked it. It definitely is hate to more, and that is my least favorite trope in contemporary stories. I give it a little more credit if like I like it a little bit more if it's in like a fantastical world. So that was like not the best dynamic for me, but I like that they both had very different queer stories, and I like that a lot. It was a very, very fun read, very, very quick. I listened to the audio, and I would definitely do that for more books in the series. I also met Iris, and I really want to get her book. Her book is next. But I enjoyed it. I like that the both characters had a very unique journey. It definitely was a lot about self-discovery. I liked the background, the setting. Just hate to more is not my favorite trope, so that's why I only gave it 4 stars. But I am really excited for Iris, so I will definitely be checking that out when it comes out. But yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read is definitely a favorite of the month, especially romance-wise. After this book, I was pretty much like romanced out, I think. But I picked up Summer Reading by Jen McKinley, and I love this book. I gave this book like 4 stars. Again, it's very, very long, which is kind of a theme. But you basically follow a boy bookworm, which I love, and a main character named Samantha, and she has dyslexia, which I love that. I had a learning issue when I was growing up. I had dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia. So anytime anyone talks about learning disabilities, I feel very, very seen. And she struggles with reading. It's not her chosen thing. And she kind of has to go to this small town to kind of watch her half-brother or her stepbrother for the summer, and she kind of gets paired up with this bookworm, and it was really, really cute. I had to read a book set on a coast, so this was like perfect, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's definitely a book that I felt like seen with my learning challenges, even though I don't have dyslexia, but I really enjoyed it. It was a really, really fun romance, and the one thing I loved, if you get the physical book, it's put in a format that is meant to be for all readers, like dyslexia or not, or ADHD, and I thought that was really, really kind of the author to do. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to check out her other books, but this is definitely a 4-star read for me, and I'm happy that the prompt came up because I probably wouldn't have got around to it this summer. And then the next book that I picked up, again, I was reading a lot this summer, this month. Then the next thing I read was a quick one, and that is Bloom by Kevin Pichette and Savannah Gochin, and this is a graphic novel. It is all blue, so I figured if I was going to read it, I was going to read it when I was doing a blue readathon, and I liked it. It kind of gave me Heartstopper vibes. There's baking involved. It's an LGBTQ plus story. I know that it's the start of a series. The characters weren't that memorable to me other than the 2 main characters, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, it was a fun time. It was quick. The characters weren't that memorable. It wasn't like I was reading Heartstopper with the 2 mains and all the side characters. These characters didn't feel as dimensional other than the 2 main characters, but I liked it and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I read was probably my favorite fantasy book of the month, and that is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I gave this one 5 stars. This is her first book in her Elemental series. This is Elemental Magic, and I think I found a magic type that I love. I love Elemental Magic, but you basically follow this main character. Well, you actually follow a lot of characters in this story, which I think really helped me expand the world. But you follow this character named Jack, who's a bard, and he kind of has to come back because girls in his town are going missing, and he kind of has to use his bard magic, which is connected to the elements, to kind of find these girls, and he has to team up with his former best friend, arch enemy, to kind of save the day. And I love the elemental magic in the story. If you don't know, my favorite book of the whole year is Isles of the Gods, which had a very cool elemental magic book, and this just coded that for me. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. I have to get a Fire Endless, but like, honestly, I don't love these covers, but I just really, really liked it. It was kind of an adult fantasy book that I felt worked for me because there was a solid like second chance romance, which is a trope that I really do like. There was elements of a Regency element to it, which I did enjoy, and then the various point of views that we got were really, really fun. I definitely did not see the end coming, and I'm really excited for that. So I'm definitely excited to pick up book 2. I just don't know when I'm going to do that. But yeah, definitely a 5-star read for me, and I hope that you will consider checking it out. And then the next couple books I had to read were for blog tours, which we're going to get into. So the first book I had to read was Extra Normal by Kate Alice Marshall. I think this is her middle grade debut. I don't know if she's wrote middle grade before, but she's written in every category now. And I went in really hesitant because, I don't know, I just was like, I wasn't in the mood to read a middle grade. However, I gave this book 5 stars, so I would definitely recommend you check it out, especially if you're in the mood for like an early fall read, because it worked for me. And here is the photo. This book gave me House on the Cerulean Sea vibes, and I think it was perfect. So you follow this main character, again, I cannot remember names, but she is kind of in like a found family, and her mom, like her parents are working for the government, and they kind of adopted these characters. She has a ghost, she has a werewolf, and they're all kind of teamed up together, and she's kind of left with these 2 special agents as her parents kind of go off on a vacation, and 2 people move in next door, and she's very suspicious of them. So she has to kind of team up with her brothers and her sisters to figure out what's going on, and things go from there. Oh, I love these characters so much. I think I'm definitely gonna get the audio for this and re-listen to it at some point, because the characters were just so fun. I would love more books set in this world. It's a 5-star read. If you liked House on the Cerulean Sea and just want those vibes and those dynamics, I would pick it up. I have another book that kind of gave me those vibes as well, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. It comes out soon. I think the blog, my review is gonna go up on my blog in the next couple of days. But yeah, it was great. I gave it 5 stars, and I definitely hope we get more set in this world. And then the next book that I read was for another blog tour, and that is Tessa Mania is No Hero by Julie Abe. I have to admit, this one let me down just a bit. I have really loved everything that Julie Abe has written, but this book, I just didn't feel that connected to the characters, I'm going to be very honest. It takes place in Tokyo. She has to go live with her other grandparents because she's having a lot of issues, and I just didn't feel that connected to the characters. I did read it. I think it was a great, I think it was a fun read. I gave it, 3.5 stars, runs it up to 4 on Goodreads. I'm probably going to save this and kind of give it to my students when I see them, because I'm going to start teaching next week, and I'll probably put this in my swag bag to kind of give it to them. But I enjoyed it. It just wasn't my favorite. I think I definitely preferred her Alana Girl of Dragon series and Eva Evergreen and her other books. This was a little bit of a miss for me, but I still think it was a solid read. Very adventure focused. I just didn't feel that connected to the characters. But again, I always know when I kind of say that, I'm not the chosen demographic, but I have really loved her books in the past, and I'm going to keep reading her in the future. This one just didn't hit as much as I was expecting. And I found my bookmark, which is good. And the next book that I read, if I can remember, is an audiobook, and it is The Unexpected Peril by Diana Rayburn. And here's the photo. This is the latest installment in the Veronica Speedwell series. I definitely like this book a lot better than the previous one, which is like a Jack the Ripper-esque. This also has the dynamic between Stoker and Veronica changed a bit, and this just had a fun setting. It was set like on a mountain, and there was like a climbing incident that our characters had to kind of uncover, and you could definitely see how the dynamics of our 2 main characters have swapped a lot, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great listen. It has a blue cover, as you can see. That's why I chose to pick it up. But I love historical mysteries. I love this series. It's probably one of my second favorite, actually probably one of my favorite historical mysteries, historical murder mysteries. So if you have any recommendations and if you think I would love to hear them below. I know I got a couple from Leandra from TBR0, but yeah, it was a great book. I'm really excited to finally catch up on this series. That will definitely happen this year. And yeah, so yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and I was really happy that I finally got to pick it up. And the next book that I picked up, actually I'm going to do, yeah, I don't remember when I picked that one up. But the next book I picked up was The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I don't remember why I read this, but I think it was because it had, I think I had to go to Tokyo with this, because it had, cursive on the cover. This was a book that everyone was telling me that I was really gonna like, and I will admit, I enjoyed it. But you basically follow this main character named Oriya, and she is the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn Vampire King. And she kind of starts off this book knowing that she is going to go into a competition to kind of win and get a wish from the goddess. And things go from there, and she kind of is forced to team up with a vampire to kind of get her way. I said this when I was doing my wrap-up. I felt this world was really cool. I really liked the characters, and as cool as the world was, there was not enough side characters for me to feel really invested. It kind of reminded me when I read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. That story was very focused on 2 main characters, and I love a good fantasy romance. I remember when I read Fourth Wing, that was not my chosen genre, but the competition really had me. I like how she structured it. The characters were really, really cool, but I didn't feel that connected to the other elements of the world, and it was like just the romance. So as much as I love the romance, that's not what pushes me through a story, and I enjoyed it. I thought the competition was great. Plots in fantasy romances don't ever wow me, but I did enjoy it. I want to read book 2. I just wish you saw the side characters more and they had a bit more dimension to the story, but I did give it 4 stars, and I really do like her writing. I definitely want to read her other series. But I was just, the world, as interesting as it was, wasn't as well fleshed out as I wanted it to be, other than the 2 main characters. So that's why I only gave it 4 stars for review. And then this is when I started to have a bit of a reading issue. So I picked up the Fall of Rune and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is her newest book, and I actually wound up DNFing it. I only got 100 pages in. I'm going to give this to my friend Tiffany because she really wanted it. She wanted a copy at ALA, and I was going to read it and see if I liked it, but I DNF'd it. I don't think I'm going to read it. I might give Jennifer L. Armentrout's other series like an option, but this just did not work for me. I didn't feel that connected to the characters, and the world was not as interesting, so I put it down. I know that I'm very, very picky, but I will say if you like very, very steamy, my arc had a lot of chili peppers on the back, I think it would work for you. It just didn't work for me. I didn't feel that connected to the characters, and the world just wasn't as interesting. So that's why I wound up DNFing that one. And then the next prompt I had to read was to read a book that had a location in the title. So my audiobook I picked up was Summer in the Scottish Highlands by Donna Ashcroft, and I'm going to attach a photo here. Books by Donna Ashcroft, and this was just a delight. I really liked this book. I gave it 4 stars, and it was just made me feel nice and warm. And as a book reader, I just loved it. You have this main character, this mom, who has a young girl, and she kind of goes back to her Scottish small town to kind of regroup after her husband died, and her apartment, she had to move, and she kind of goes to this small town, and she kind of meets this man, and they kind of have a little relationship, but she winds up working at a book, like a small mini library, and that's the premise. It was really, really cute. Definitely more women's fiction, but there is a romance. It also is a single mom, which I know people really like, but I just love the Scottish accents in this book. It was really, really fun, and I gave it 4 stars for review. And then I started my deep dive into dark academia. I picked up The Cloisters by Katie Hayes, and I have to admit, I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars for review. This is backwards. This takes place at the Cloisters in New York City, which I've actually been because I live in New York, if you didn't know. And I enjoyed this book. But you basically follow a main character, oh god, named Anne. And she kind of goes to New York City, and she kind of gets thrust into the Cloisters as an intern. And she kind of winds up meeting these 2 guys, and they're kind of uncovering the history of tarot cards. And she kind of gets connected to these 2 main characters, Rachel and Patrick. And they're kind of uncovering the hidden origins of the tarot cards in Italian history. It was very captivating. I read half of it, and then I listened to the second half on audio, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was I'm finding all my bookmarks. Very interesting. I will say the characters aren't always likable. But for me, it worked. It worked for me because I still felt invested. And your main character was Anne, who I think is a bit more likable than the other characters. There was a lot of twists and turns, and kind of like when I read Shadow Sister, had a pretty open ending, and I think that's kind of the game when you go into Dark Academia, but I enjoyed it. It was definitely compelling. It was definitely interesting. I definitely want to read more in this genre, but I might listen to more audiobooks. So yes, my dog's barking. I'm going to go investigate, and then I'm going to finish this wrap-up. So the next book I read, it had to be a hybrid genre, which was a bit tricky, I'll be honest. So I wound up picking, this is where I kind of started deviating from my color scheme because I was desperate. But I picked up The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bann, and this was my Fairy Loot edition, which is so pretty. I just have to show you these end pages and this bag. I'm probably going to keep this book just because this cover is just so pretty. It reminds me of the, what is it called? Lynette Nomi, that series. It had very similar things. But yeah, this was a cozy fantasy to me. I really liked it. It gave me fallish vibes, which I like. We basically follow 2 characters, Mercy and Heart, Mercy works in an undertaking facility, and it's a very, very magical world. Like, it's definitely a magical world, but it's very, very low stakes, I would say. And then you follow Hart, who is a marshal who kind of brings the dead bodies, and they have a very, very bad relation. Like, it's definitely hate to more, and I said, hate to more works for me when it's in a fantastical world and stakes are high. The stakes in here are definitely, like, not as high, but I really did enjoy it. And there's a you got mail element. They're writing letters to each other throughout the whole story, and then their relationship kind of changes. It's very, very found family, and I just really like this. There's also a demigod element, so if you're a fan of like older YA or like middle grade, I think that you would see like Percy Jackson or like Harry Potter elements in this story, and I just enjoyed it. The characters were really, really sweet. It was a really, really quick read. There's a dog in here, as you can see, and I liked it. I gave it 5 stars for review. I'm really excited to read the companion book, and that is where we wound up with this one. And yeah, I'm really happy I got this copy from Fairly, because it's definitely going to stay in my collection. The last official book that I finished for the amazing readathon is Volume 4 of Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. I gave this book 4 stars. It was a delight. I just love these art styles so much. This is probably my favorite in the whole series. There definitely is a lot of chat about sexual assault and the after effects of that. So if you read Volume 1, it's definitely dealing with that, especially for our main character Persephone. I just love Persephone and Hades in this. There's also just a lot of like other things happening in this story. The one thing I will say is you do get a lot of main characters in this story, and like as someone that's not as familiar with this world, I don't always know who's who. So like that's just more of a me thing, but like I think would be helpful for me to have like a tree of like who everyone is just by appearances. I'm sure I could find it online and stuff, but like it just was a very well done. Probably my favorite volume of the whole set, and I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, that is my wrap up for August. August is always my biggest reading month. Always. I mean, the amazing readathon, I will admit, helped me quite a bit. Like I got a lot done just because of that. It was like very, very motivating. But yeah, let me know what was your favorite book of the month. Out of these, I would say The Undertaking of Heart the Mercy were definitely a highlight. And I would probably say River Enchanted was another highlight. I didn't read a ton of YA fantasy just because it didn't really work for any prompts. And another book that really stood out to me was Extra Normal by Kate Alice Marshall. So let me know what was your top read of the month. I would love to know. Let me know if you participated in any of the readathons, if you were a part of Aurelium, amazing readathon, what team you are, and all that stuff. I would love to know. And I'll talk to you guys soon for my next video. Bye.